We're now going to give our panel a review. If you remember, I suggested we have an academic, we have an activist, and we have a politician. And they've been given 3 minutes, 5, absolutely the outset, to just respond to what they've heard from their own experience of life and their own perspective. So you can see the names, except it's not Claire in the middle. It's Becky instead of Claire, okay? But we're going to ask Alan to make a response.
Okay, so I was trying to think who we'd have on a £10 note, and I couldn't get past Ken Dodd, you know. But I was thinking Echo and the Bunnymen, and, you know, I don't know. Why Liverpool? What is it that bubbles? Well, you know, you must have all seen the Labour Party conference last week and momentum. And, you know, I have this kind of view that Liverpool isn't a socialist city, although, you know, it's often presented as such. And it's been called radical, so maybe it can offer something towards citizenship, but, you know, not from a perspective that's entrenched in political, well, socialism, really. It's a city that's rooted in class, you know, and there's the syndicalist conflict around the waterfront, for example, but, you know, even more recently in the car factories. Race and religion, you know, and typical of a port city, some of those things. So it's not really a city that we can overtly say there's a simple marriage between its people and, you know, something called citizenship, you know. So, but it does have a long history of voluntary effort and charity, but that's done against a backdrop of really conservative municipality and planning, you know, and you know, so my point really is that, you know, it's not easy to kind of realise citizenship. So can we draw from our history in terms of our relationship with social organisations? You know, can we kind of really drive an impetus towards citizenship? What can we take back? Can we take back the city? And I think, and I've kind of posted this on a blog elsewhere, that we can. And, you know, my kind of perspective on citizenship, and I'm really concerned with the local economy for a moment, is that we can take back elements of living, you know, as a form of citizenship. And I would say, and I'll just do this in bullet points, we can take back work. There's no reason why we can't drive forward an argument for dignity in work. The notion that we have to work more, but we survive poorly, is related to the kind of drudgery that we often experience in work. And I think we can put an end to that, or at least create an argument that calls for an end to that. I think we can take back governance, and that's not just through city devolution, but you know through other things such as neighbourhood group initiatives, looking for social innovation between partnerships who work around at neighbourhood level, local capacity building, even install things like community development workers in neighbourhoods again, yeah? And think about the institutional capacity building that we've got to do, and I'll say something about that in a moment. I think we can take back assets, tangible assets in this instance, that exist in neighbourhoods, land and property, the land for the commons, terra communis, as it's sometimes known. I think we can take back enterprise. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm talking about really changing the narrative around enterprise and entrepreneurship, shifting it from that individualization of enterprise, and really thinking about forms of collaboration and collective enterprise, entrepreneurial behaviour in production, distribution and consumption within communities. And I think, you know, we need to be thinking about the tools and methods that we can do to enable this. Now, one of the things that we've done is try at the Heseltine Institute is try to do some work around the social economy as part of these things I've just been talking about. And we've set up something called the Liverpool City Region Social Economy Panel. And that's an initiative that's been established by the Social Enterprise Network and the university, led by myself and involving my colleagues in the university. And what we want to do is to try and position the social economy to help us reconfigure the local economy around areas that John has spoken about. How do we democratise those parts of life that impose on us, that are so important to us, that shape how we experience our kind of family lives? Yeah, you know. How do we make the local economy accountable to its citizens and not have citizens serve the dominant interest in that local economy? They're the sort of questions that I think the social economy can drive forward. And what we really need to do, and this is what I'm hoping the Liverpool City Region's social economy panel can do, is start to build up the strategic capability of the social economy and get the actors from that sector involved. And in some respects, I'll draw an analogy from another Canadian city in Montreal, where the Chantier social economy exists. And I think we can learn from that.
Hi everybody. So I've been described as an activist in the room. I'm not Claire, I'm Becky. I am part of a founding member of Squash Nutrition, which is a creative arts and health organisation. We have been practising our work since 2002, but we've kind of developed and evolved into now just about on the verge of becoming a charity, but we've been a social enterprise for a long time. We've been based in Toxteth in Liverpool all that time. A lot of our board are, or at least 50% of our board are born and bred in that area, so have a real kind of feeling and a real connection with that area. And I think where I'm coming from and where I really resonate with the things that you're talking about is, and I don't know about the word, but it's kind of getting to me, is the word citizen. So I was fortunate enough 2 weeks ago to see I Am Daniel Blake, Ken Loach film, amazing film, please go and see it. And one of the things that Daniel Blake says, he's somebody who's been made unemployed, he's made redundant, and he's kind of, it becomes part of this system. And some of the things that he says is that I am not a client, I am not a service user, I'm not a customer. And for me, you know, and for us, in a sense, our work has always been about meeting people at people level. So when we first started talking about health and well-being, and our organisation is very firmly fixed on food as being a focus, of being a tool that brings people together, a very equal thing wherever you are in the world. You need to come to the table, so let's come to the table together. But when we first started working in this area in 2002-ish, we were met with lots of messages, the NHS messages, the dominant messages were about food being bad for you, things that you shouldn't have, because it was, you know, and so it was the message given out to people was one of like danger, don't, that's bad, you know, a really empowering message. And the way that we have always done our work and the way that we've really approached anything that we've done and any work that we've done is about empowering people and turning that around. We believe in, and I think you've said the words dignity and joy. It's like actually bringing people together around food with dignity and joy. The area we work in is very much defined by the horrendous disadvantage. You know, when people read our board report, you know, or it's quoted, it's this series of disses, and like we have a very strong belief in turning that round because we see the positive of our community and people getting together. So we in our area we have established 3 community food gardens, a seed saving library actually situated in the back of Windsor Street. We've also got a community food garden which is on a disused pub site, so it's about reclaiming land as well. All these sites are established and developed and looked after by a team of people, volunteers, participants, staff members, and our most kind of ambitious project is about creating a community food hub on the street. And we've 30 local people who've never thought about designing a building in their lives have come together to design a building, and we have designed a building, we've funded that building, we've got funding for it, and we see the building as just the start, so it's the idea that there isn't just this thing that comes and is this thing, but it's this spreading, it's this real taking over areas of land, and so that, you know, our vision and our members' vision is like a 100-year plan for our area, which has real roots and real integrity, and really brings the community and grows the community out and upward.
Okay, I'm Linny. I'm the councillor for Cressington, but this year I was given the role by our mayor for mayoral leave for young people and citizen engagement, which was a bit, because you don't get a job description. And I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, just do whatever you like, really. Because I've always worked with young people, it was a case of, Linny, go out and see how we can start to engage with young people. All that stuff fascinated me, I have to say. It's something that I've never really considered in my life, which I should, I suppose. But from it, what I've took is the citizenship's really difficult in terms of, I just see lots and lots of challenges. Going back to what you said around community development, 20 years ago, which is a long time, I was employed by Speak Arts and Partnership. So lots of European money got through into the city, and there was fantastic community development that went on, and lots of projects and all this stuff around participate, create, facilitate. It all sort of fitted in really easily with what happened 20 years ago when all the European money come into the city. So it all made perfect sense. For me, the biggest challenge now is we haven't got that. You know, things are harder than they've ever been. In terms of engagement with young people or the citizenship, what's interesting was we used to have a thing called the 5 outcomes for children, so they were very defined things, but now the Ofsted framework has changed and it's called British Values in School, which is a big part of that is pushing on citizenship and democracy, and they're trying to get it out there in the curriculum, which is really interesting. But it is a very, very difficult thing to do in terms of engagements and citizenship when services are stretched. There's lack of role models in communities now, where we used to have very active youth. You know, the youth provision was fantastic right across, you know, the city, across the country. It's being cut. So the youth provision there isn't, and quite often them young people, their youth workers or people were the only positive role models they had at times. So that's very, very difficult now because we haven't got it anymore. It's stretched, you know, a lot of it's gone out to voluntary sector organisations who are doing they're doing a fantastic job. Social landlords are also, everyone's trying to pitch in, but it's very, very difficult to get young people active and participant because no one's got any money anymore. So when I was a youth worker for 15 years, and to get most young people involved in anything, there had to be a carrot. You know, can you come? Can you get involved in this? And that, you know, I don't want to be negative about it because I'm, you know, all for citizenship, but it is very, very difficult to do if you have not got, you know, mischief night, antisocial behaviour, or we'll take it out. All them things we can't do anymore because the money is not available. And as a city, you know, we've got £90 million cuts in the next 2 years to make. So all we're going to be left with are statutory services. So anything which, you know, can promote or create or we can be the facilitator, and we can, you know, work with partners, and some really, really great work has been done in terms of partnership with the CCGs, the social landlords, to try and fill the gaps. But I think it's going to be very, very difficult because of where we are.
Thank you very much. We've now got an opportunity for you to have a conversation. John was talking about building the conversation in the room, and the opportunity we're given just to buzz with people around you hopefully will have broken the ice a little bit. So what would you like to see us all discuss together? If you've got questions or comments you want to make, just raise your hand and I'll give you the mic. We want everyone to speak first through the mic. Because we've only got this mic and that one that's not going very far, I'm going to have to rush back and give it to whoever needs the answer. So, okay, over here, the first question.
I'm Diana. I live in the city center for 10 years now. And before I say anything else, I have to say to Becky that your organization has really done a lot for us as a family. I have 3 young kids. Through you, we learned what you can eat in the city center. We never thought we could forage within the city. We learned how people eat around the world through your film series, and we absolutely love you. We come to Talksteth whenever we can. The other thing I want to mention that really struck me right now about young people and not being able to do something for them. I'm originally from Berlin. I'm from an area that was very densely populated. Youth centers were closed after the wall came down. And I know how important it is to do something for young people. In the city, I know lots of organizations that do stuff for young people. I think more after primary level, because at primary they're still safe. It's more the youngsters, the teenagers that have nothing to do, you can see on the streets, that are at risk. But they're struggling to find a place, where they can just offer those services. I think there are lots of people that are very engaged, and I think it would be best for the council to connect those people rather than trying to take those services. So I cannot see how we can afford to cut the children out, because they're the future. All those teenagers and kids who don't have anything to do, anywhere to go, are gonna be the ones who shape who we are tomorrow. And this citizen thing, I don't think is anything that you can do through money. It's something that can be woven through your childhood with values, through school, through parents. And I'm convinced that this is the way to do it.
Okay. Lenny, quick, short.
I'll be quick. I completely agree in everything that you've said. And in terms of the council, there's nothing more, I know the voluntary agencies, and it is very joined up because the people within the council are all left from the youth service, which is a handful of them, to be fair, are going out and working with these and building consortiums and doing everything to protect what little of the services are left. But without the voluntary organisations, it just wouldn't be possible. But I agree completely what you said, and it's everyone's responsibility.
I just want to, let me take it from a different perspective for a moment. Does anyone read The Sun? No. Right, and what's happening with that paper in this city? There's a social strike almost, isn't there, to drive that paper out of the city. The council have backed that, yeah? Another council in Derry has backed it, yeah? And, this isn't kind of subject to fundraising or anything like that. It's a kind of, it's not a social movement, but the social action taking place that's driving change, yeah? And I wonder if there's kind of a lesson there for, some of the citizenship objectives we might want to reach.
Thanks very much, Alan. That's very helpful. Anybody else want to? Can you just tell us your name and if you live in the city centre, where you're from or country you're from?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Joana. I live in the city centre. I'm from Spain, from the Basque Country. And my question is maybe a bit theoretical, but I always wondered this since I'm living in the UK, or I found a very big difference, so I always wondered if it makes a difference. And my question would be if charity, rather than solidarity as a mindset in the UK, has a real impact on how you shape, how you participate in society, and particularly in the city. So, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a really, really good question. How are we formed by charity, John? Go on.
You sound like you've got something. Go on.
No. Please do carry on.
I mean, I suppose I think it's not something I've thought about a great deal, to be honest. But it's a really interesting one. I suppose I think you're probably really right. Like there is a thing where the idea of solidarity, and it does feel like a very laden word in the English language. But that as an idea, it feels like it should be much lighter, and like it should be something that's just kind of, yeah, of course. Whereas charity has this sort of connotations of like someone who's already very well off doing something for someone else, and rather than a kind of a normal thing. And yet it is language that's much more comfortable in the UK. I think you're right. I think that could be something I'd love to think about more. And so can I just say one other thing? So just this thing about citizenship as an education idea, and you mentioned it as well, Linny. Is this? I think when we have citizenship in education, it tends to be at a really functional level, and reduce citizenship to a kind of legal construct, and like what you should do is vote, and here's what it means to be a citizen, and that's not. And what citizenship is concepts like solidarity and kind of and that teaching that would look very different to what the curriculum is currently trying to teach. I think it's like the underlying values rather than the specific actions, and I think maybe that could unlock an awful lot.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think your question is really perceptive, and it would take somebody coming outside our country to sense this. I think charity is very paternalistic, and that comes from the subject, period, being subjects of the monarch and all that. And we expect, well, there was a time when we expected charity. People were expected to do that. And then solidarity, I think, comes out of a very different political system, where it's in the roots of the nation that you live in solidarity. Interesting that the Polish trade union movement that eventually brought the communist government down was called Solidarity, in Polish, of course. So fascinating, and I think you've really picked something very, very, very important for us. I think Liverpool maybe bucks the trend a little bit. Liverpool is a city with a great sense of solidarity, and we don't really like charity either. So, Rhiannon.
Hi everybody, I'm Rhiannon Corcoran. I don't live in the city centre, I live in St Michael's Ward. It was a really perceptive question, I quite agree. And it links, I think, to the idea that currently, because of adversity, picking up on Linny's point, we're in a process of changing a culture from actually being takers of what's given to us to becoming givers to the whole of society. And that's, to me, how you reframe a charity mindset, if you like, or a taking mindset into more of a solidarity type mindset. So I think the things link up in a really interesting kind of way.
Thanks. It's interesting that the big group in Liverpool that works with the voluntary sector, the LCVS, is called the Liverpool Charity and Voluntary Services. Peter, you wanted a question.
Sorry, the councillor, you wanted to say something in response.
I think I wrote down before, and I think as when John mentioned community development and the whole solidarity thing, and you mentioned momentum, I wrote down things have got to get really bad before people get bothered. And austerity is massive. And that's why we've now got movements and things happening, because things are bad. And that's, with you just saying that then, I thought that was on my notes. You have to get bad before people really get bothered.
Thank you.
John, I just wanted to, sorry, my name is Peter, hello. I'm an adopted Scouser who is the chair of a local residents association in the Rope Walks. John, I wanted to make you aware that the banner you showed of the Liverpool supporters has resulted in Liverpool having a new football club called City of Liverpool Football Club, which play in purple, like the purple bins. And you know why the bins are purple. And funnily enough, their hashtag is reclaiming the game. So that is very suitable to the event today. And they've got the same surf culture. And yes, Manchester's got something similar, but it's obviously not as good. So that's number one. And what I wanted to say is that it's interesting, Jerry, you ask us to go on Twitter and hashtag this. And I think we should, because we need people who clearly are not converted to our way of thinking, hence them not being here, to know about it, start thinking about it and convert. The problem that I have, that you in your opening speech also addressed though, is that to get people off their backsides and stop writing crap on social media that nobody reads and that makes no change in the world, you know, unlike crowdfunding, which is great, for example, you need to get these people up and actually make a real change in the community by action. The kind of things that not Claire but Becky has talked about, for example. This requires activity, using your hands and your legs to make things happen. And that is something that you cannot do from the comfort of your laptop in your living room. And that is, unfortunately, there's a load of strength in social media. And there's a hell of a lot of weakness in social media. I don't have the answer, apart from I'm not on Facebook, which makes organizing things as a chair of the Residents Association virtually impossible. And I'm not on Twitter. So I just thought, I've got a million thoughts in my head, but the last one is, of the last 4 speakers, 3 were European citizens who chose Liverpool to be their home. And that is because Liverpool is an absolutely amazing place to be. And like my seat neighbor, who is from Doncaster, by the way, bless him, he chose to live in Liverpool as well for the same reason. So, I'm very proud of Liverpool having voted to remain in the EU. Sorry. Thank you.
I just wanted to say something quickly about this idea that, and it sort of ties in with the thing about get off the internet and the thing about things have to get really bad, because to some extent I agree with both of them, and to some extent I disagree with both of them. Like, I think my microphone moved. There's something about, so I really like the Beppe Grillo, the Italian comedian behind the 5-Star Movement, his thing of head on the internet, feet on the ground, and I think there is something about there is the organising potential is really powerful, and I think we shouldn't just sort of go, that's not real, because I think it is real. The thing about stuff being having to be bad, I think that's kind of true, and it's certainly true. So Better Reykjavik, Iceland hit a wall, right? And Better Reykjavik sprung directly out of that wall. But on the other hand, I have this, where you see one of the beliefs I have is that, and one of the things we see a lot in our work is that there's so much more, and I suppose this was why I asked you guys to talk about subject, consumer, citizen, and talk about how you felt when you were in each of those modes, because fundamentally the belief that we work with and that we see in a lot of the projects we do is that being a citizen is actually so much more joyful and fulfilling, and if we can frame this stuff in that way, then actually the attractiveness this will become a party people want to come to, rather than a things have got so bad we just have to do something thing. And I guess I think this then ties back to the language of charity and solidarity and kind of these ideas of duty and kind of worthiness. And it's like one of the things we talk about as New Citizenship Project in our kind of the way we describe what we do is we're like what the kind of founding frustration is, why is consumerism so creative and so energetic and colourful, and participation so boring and heavy? And you're and so one of the things we one of the founding moments for us was we were playing, we've done some work with the BBC, another story, but BBC Three, when they were creating content for young people as consumers, they're like creative hotbed of the nation. And then they ran a consultation about the future of BBC Three, and they basically uploaded a 100-page monochrome PDF to a website with some drop-down boxes, and you're like, and then they say people don't want to participate, and you're like, you've got to. I don't know quite, but it's like the joy of this. There's a friend of mine used the phrase, the joy of participation, the joy of sex. Let's have some of that in this, rather than making it kind of, anyway.
Thanks, John. 2 questions coming up, 1 and then 2. Just give us your name, please.
My name's Jada. I've worked in the city for many, many years, but I don't live here now. But I've also been involved in quite a lot of health charities. I just want to talk a little bit about the concept of the charity. I agree with Jerry that people don't like to be in receipt of charity, from that sense. But then on the other hand, there is something as being a citizen, to be part of a charity, to do the work for the charity. And it seems to me that if the council are sort of cutting back and back and back and saying we can't do this because we can't afford it, what you're not doing is recognizing the level of expertise is out there amongst all those charities who are being true citizens, but also have an awful lot of knowledge and skill. And Jerry mentioned at the beginning that he gave an example of a forum. I don't know the details, but the forum wasn't being listened to by the council. So it seems to me that the council, in its difficulties, needs to get to all that expertise which is there and say, look, we can't do this, folks, we haven't got any money, but we want you to do it, to empower the charities to actually do the work. Because at the moment, a lot of people who are regarded as, oh, well, they're a bunch of worthies, that word was mentioned just then, you can't reduce their expertise just by saying they're worthy. They're being true citizens, they want to help, and they should be acknowledged for what they can do.
Thank you. Very good balancing. But anybody want to come make a comment on that? No? Question in the back.
Yeah, my name is Dave, and I am from Israel. I've been traveling for quite a while. Now, my question is regarding actually what is being done over the activistic front, since from what I know, stuff like squatting has been illegal in the UK for the past many years. And when you have been talking, John, you specifically have been talking about what has been done actually in the consumerist front, what Brewdog was doing, not mentioning at all the social centers that exist here in Liverpool or the housing co-ops that exist all over the UK, and actually not mentioning the local cooperative for solidarity projects that have been happening around. That's one. Well, as you are talking about moving towards a citizenship solidarity movement, houses like the bombed out church or venues that have been used by small bands to practice have been closed down to build hotels and other places. And even this meeting right here is in the Hilton Hotel other than a local social center. So my question will come out more as to what is being done on the personal levels, even of this group, and to all the people, what are you doing on your personal level to actually help solidarity while actually sitting here and talking about consumer stuff?
Okay. Anybody want to say a word? Yeah.
I can say something, which is kind of a little bit as well to the last question. But I think it's when you had those list of words about the person that was a citizen, the one that I felt was missing was active. And I thought, and like I'm an activist, I'm not Claire, but I'm an activist and I'm Becky. And I suppose, and I really agree with you, that making opportunity, and I think that's what our organisation sees its role as, making those opportunities for people to come together in lots of different forums, at lots of different ways to make change in our very local neighbourhood. And I suppose I'm coming at this from a very local area. I'm not from a sort of wider city point of view. And I suppose that's again also a sort of actually what can you do, which is what you're asking. It's like, what can you do within your life, within your area, within your community? What personal responsibility can you take for? And I suppose personally, I've kind of decided that my life's work is doing what I'm doing, and it is about empowering people and making those opportunities with joy, with dignity and with pleasure, you know, not coming at people, meeting people at you know, in my community who are the same as me, wanting the same things for our community. So I kind of agree with you, or what I say is I share your thoughts and your ideas that activism starts with the individual, and it might start small, but it spreads. Be active in your family, in your home, in your school, in your workplace, and you know there's lots of potential for that to grow. Yeah.
I just want to carry on with what Becky's just said there, really. Just before I do that, the gentleman that was talking about charities and recognising the work. I work for a charity in my day job for local solutions with homeless young people. It's been going for 40 odd years. I think the third sector generally is really struggling as well, because a lot of the third sector were reliant on funding from councils and different things. And I do think the council recognise the value of the charities around, and certainly, you know, our food banks and everything else that we rely. I see it daily in terms of the value that charities bring. So from a personal point of view, I value charities 100%. I can't speak for the whole council. Just so what Becky said around, what are you saying then? Hang on, sorry, Becky. About activism. I became a councillor because I was a community activist. And I was really, when the partnership days were going on, I was sick and moaning about councillors that I felt didn't understand what was going on in my community. And it was a case of, you can't beat them, join them really in the end, because I was sick of moaning about them, thought they were too far removed, didn't understand the community, didn't listen to the community. And that's why activism is great, because I know that the wards I represent, I'm a good councillor because I understand the issues and I know the wards and I listen to what the people are saying to me. So activism is massively important. If anyone is interested in getting involved in politics, it's great.
Question over here.
My name's Andy, my postcode is L68NT, so when I registered for this event it placed me outside, so I just come here as an interested outsider, a bit like an Albert Camus if you like, a stranger, but I am pretty neighbourly. I've had the good luck and misfortune in equal measures to have worked in human services all my working life. Well, not all my working life, but the first one after the glass collecting, you know, the working in a petrol station, that one. 22, and it was my 56th birthday last Sunday. Along the way, I've been heavily influenced by people that have talked about inclusion and citizenship. Mostly Canadians and Americans, it has to be said, and Australian, I think. A couple of local people. One now runs an award-winning, well-known restaurant, and a lad who jetted in from psychologist from Sheffield into Liverpool and ran riot in Liverpool Human Services for some time, and then is now off in Glasgow. And when John put up that list for in my knowledge, the pockets of islands of excellence of human service providers, some in our city, some in Glasgow, London, those 5 words would entirely resonate. It's embedded in the culture and the values of those organisations. They kind of live with that. So my wonder is, because for the last 8 years I've worked in Knowsley, which is a bit of a different thing altogether, so I'm a little bit disconnected in networking, is how much kind of a glue together is there within the city of those leaders who maybe sat in the room behind me, have no idea, sat behind me that get all that and have lived with that stuff, to connect with other people that, you know, engage Liverpool, how much of that is actually happening, to be able to kind of glue stuff together a little bit. That kind of spider's web as a kind of an imagery of pulling things together, that spirit, that community spirit that exists within the city. Liverpool has a rich history as pioneers in human services, and there's much to be gained from that. It's got a rich history, as Alan pointed out, of social action, politically and direct action. We've got a rich history there. UK Uncut, Liverpool Uncut, notoriously took part in action in this city centre, outside banks. I was there as an observer, and brought about real change, and triggered off an awful lot of change as a result of that. I'll stop there, because on the flip side, Lynn's right, absolutely. Social care is in crisis. I was at one of the World Transformed events on the future of social care in the Quakers on Tuesday the 27th of September, and that was discussing the future of social care. You know, the double-edged sword, the crash of austerity into it, you know, in Knowsley, like, you know, as a borough on its knees, but I mean, out of that is an incredible energy and determination to thrive and in amongst austerity, adapt and change. So it's not really a question, it's a wonder around the potential to kind of galvanise all of what people have said in the room, what I've just said, what other people have just said, and bring that together.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Do you want me to say something? Anybody want to comment on anything? Okay, I'm just conscious of the time. So there's no point in looking at that clock, is there? Or the clock over there either. 2 clocks in the room, both of them don't work. Thank you very much I think you've probably helped to sum up everything in a very important way with your experience and the comments you've made about where we've been tonight. Maybe I should begin with an apology to you, Andy, for L6. Engage only works with people who live in the city centre, but our events are open to everybody. And that's because we had a problem with some councillors not too long ago who, when we were doing an event that was looking at Liverpool waters, it just encroached slightly into Kirkdale. And all hell broke loose because we were daring to have an event that touched on the people living in Kirkdale, and we're not from there. So we've been very, very conscious. We only speak with people from the city centre, but everyone's welcome to what we do. So I just want to try and draw this to a close this evening by just saying thank you very much to the people who have made this possible tonight, which was Moda Living and a couple of other anonymous supporters. Thank Doubletree by Hilton for the venue tonight. And I know it's a very posh location, but whether you like it or not, we live in the city centre and we walk past buildings that we never get into. And one of the things that Engage has done for the last 5 years is to get people into buildings they never get into normally. And that's why we're here tonight. And that's why next time we'll be in another one that we don't normally get into. We want to see what's in our city. And it doesn't mean we buy into the mentality that built it, but it's our part of our city and our heritage. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Linny. I want to thank Becky and Alan for coming along tonight. Very much want to thank John for his speaking. I want to thank Nonconform and Rachel at the back and her team at Nonconform, who've been absolutely magnificent in getting the whole thing off the ground. I want to thank Joe, who's been filming for us. So this, at some point, we hope very soon, will be up on the website, so you'll be able to get back into it and share it. I want to thank the Engage board members who are here tonight, supporting the event and helping us to make it run smoothly. We're going to give everybody on the way out a gift. I think Rachel might have the box, or somebody has. We have a booklet that we produced. This is the second edition for tonight. We're going to give it you for free. We've got another sponsor who's enabled us to print them, and it's simply a way of connecting with the city. 10 ideas to how you can become more active and more engaged and more connected. And we have a number of these copies that you can take home tonight, and we'll give them again at the next session. So please share it, and we'd like to give you more copies. If you're from one of the residential developments in the city, we'd like to support you sharing this with other residents. We've got 2 events coming up very soon for residents of the city centre. One on Friday the 21st for people who live in listed buildings in the city centre, in the warehouses of the waterfront, in Colonnades, Waterloo Warehouse, Tower Building and Wapping Quay. We're arranging an event with a developer who's developing another warehouse, and we want to share experience of what it's like to live in a converted building so that they go on improving that experience for people. And we're also having a consultation for the local plan, which is the way the planning authority will make its decisions about the city centre over the next 15, 20 years. And that meeting is going to be on Monday the 24th. Both of those are on the Engage website, and you need to register for them. So we'd like to encourage you. They're both taking place at 5:30 in the Cunard building, 2 separate days. And I suppose the final thing I want to say is this is the first seminar of a series of 3. And the next one, we're bringing from Paris an extraordinary man who lived in a block of flats where a lady was found dead, who died, and she was dead for 3 months before anybody found her. This man was shocked to the core that had happened where he lived, and he changed his life, a bit like Becky has changed her life around food and squash nutrition. This man decided, being a neighbour, was going to become the most important thing in his life. So he started trying to get his neighbours together where he lived. It spread to other apartments. Then gradually it spread all the way around where he lived, the whole neighbourhood. He then got elected mayor, sounds a little bit like Linny, this one, got elected mayor of the 18th arrondissement in Paris, and it's now a worldwide movement to get people to be more neighbourly. So we're bringing this guy from Paris, who I've got a great respect for, and we'd love you to come and listen next time. There's the details on the screen. And you might want to think about George Monbiot. If you enjoyed that question, he's doing an event in Liverpool on the 20th of October at the Philharmonic Hall. And again, details about that are on our Reclaiming the City webpage on the internet. So thank you very much to everyone tonight. I really hope we've started a conversation. Engage is an organisation that tries to get a conversation and change attitudes through the ability to hear new ideas, be exposed to things we haven't thought of before, and then go away and do something about it. So I'm really keen. Was it David at the back from Israel? Thank you for your insistence that we can't just sit on our asses and listen, that we have to actually do something and make a difference. Let's be the change you want to see. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.